Week 12 is in the books. Now we are on to week 13. So I'm coming at you here from Fantasy Rant. Evan here with your week 13 waivers. Going to start off here at quarterback. Now this may be kind of a fringe guy. He may not be available. He is 50% owned right now. But his name's Russell Wilson, and I would not have thought that I would be putting him on here. But after the past 5 weeks, he's shown he can get it done. He's got consistent QB play, top 20 those past 5 weeks. And in those weeks, he's also notched up 116 yards on the ground. So he has an amazing schedule coming up as well, seeing Houston, Detroit, and my Chargers twice. So in the next 5 games. So you can trust him going forward, I think, with that schedule. Next up, we have Aaron Rodgers, 21% ownership. He is just waiting for doctor's clearance to start practicing again. And I think he's got a great chance to start as soon as he gets back to practice. This obviously carries some risk, but the reward could be league winning. When he does come back, I expect this whole offense to take a massive step forward, and there's plenty of weapons for him for big upside for your fantasy playoffs. The only downside is if he really just doesn't play or come in time. But based on what I'm seeing, the reports I'm reading, looks like that's coming sooner than later. So snag them while you can. Now on to the wide receivers. I added Jalen Hyatt here, 11% ownership, so he definitely should be available for you. In week 12, Hyatt capitalized on Darius Slayton being out, and he saw a team high 6 targets, catching 5 for over 100 yards. And he's actually, the only Giants wide receiver to go over 100 yards this year, which I thought was crazy. He's a big play waiting to happen and seems to have developed some connection with Tommy DeVito. Got to do the little, DeVito dance thing. But the Giants need someone to step up on that offense. And if Hyatt can build trust and build on, last week's performance, he's worth the ad for your fantasy team and potentially even starting if you need him to. But Justin Watson is my next guy, 15% ownership. Watson scored a touchdown in both of the past 2 weeks. Last week it saved his, this past week it saved his week, but in week 11 he saw 11 targets. So the Kansas City offense is going to be red hot with Mahomes under center always. But the fact that they spread the ball around so much makes this a pretty risky player to trust and start in your lineup. So I'd probably rather go with somebody like Hyatt, but still worth an ad. So next, moving on from the wide receivers, we have running back. Now, running back first on my list, I have Jeff Wilson Jr., 18% ownership. He saw 11 carries last week and will continue to see work if Achan is not on the field. With those 11 opportunities on the ground, he did manage to have average over 5 yards per carry, and he's also getting involved in the passing game, catching all three of his targets. So I don't see him as a long-term option, but if you're in a pinch and he's a guy, he's just a guy you could trust until A-Chain comes back. Next up on my list for running back, we have Samaje Perine, 22% ownership. Samaje seems to have taken the number 2 job, and Javante did get pretty banged up last week. So it wasn't serious, but definitely something to monitor for Javante Williams and add, Samaje precautionary if you have him for sure. But he's also shown he's effective when given the opportunities. He's averaging 7 to 8 yards per carry over the last 3 weeks, which definitely caught me off guard and surprised me. So I think he's worth an ad there, especially if it's tough sledding with the running backs out there right now. Moving on to the tight ends. So we got Tyler Higbee over here with 31% ownership. He went off last week, putting up almost 20 points, capitalized on Kupp being eased back into the offense. And now I don't expect the results of last week to happen every week. He was the sixth best tight end in PPR last year. So he's shown he could do it in the past, and it's just a matter of is he going to get enough opportunities to do it going forward. So I do consider him boomer bust for sure, but it's worth an ad, especially if you do have somebody coming up on a bye week or injuries are happening all over the place. I'm still waiting for Waller to come back, so he's somebody that I'm actually thinking about going and starting in place of that still too. But next up on my list is a guy who has stepped up for me. I actually own him in 2 of my leagues, and he's only 34% off rostered right now. And I've had him for starting for I think 5 6 weeks. Cade Otton. I don't know why nobody has been picking him up or has been looking for his way. Especially he had a boom week a couple weeks ago, getting like 25 points, and definitely quietly ranked the sixteenth best tight end through the season so far, and he's shown promise in his second year. he seems to have emerged as the third option behind Evans and Godwin, and he's shown he's a reliable pass catcher. He's caught over 75% of his targets throughout the season so far, and I mean this is a guy who's young and developing still. He's got plenty of time to grow. But notable mentions here, we have Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. He's actually showing he's got some stuff there. He didn't have an interception, I think, for one of the first times, and he's getting some touchdowns and some chemistry with Jacoby Myers for sure. A.T. Perry could be worth an ad. The New Orleans Saints wide receivers got so banged up. Michael Thomas is on IR. Olave went down last week. Raheem Shaheed went down last week. So, actually, A.T. Perry could be like the wide receiver one for Derek Carr in next week, which would be very interesting. Dearness Johnson, also another notable ad. He's been pretty effective. I've been seeing him. I'm like, who is that? And it's Dearness. If anything does happen to ETN, he's definitely worth holding on to just in case, and it's kind of like a handcuff for him as well. And then for tight end, we have a notable mention of Tucker Kraft, who got a touchdown last week, and he's seems to be stepping up. He's got 95% snap share, so he's going to be on the field a ton, which is awesome. But just he needs really develop a chemistry with Jordan Love before he sees to see more targets and be useful in that end. But that's all I really got for you guys today. And let me know if your feedback, if you like them, hate them, or yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. See you in week 13.